Hey, well, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Collision Live. Daniel here, joined at the desk, as always, Mr. Sam Camp.
Good to be with you as always, Daniel.
Yeah, it's good to be with you once again. How's it going?
On a Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Of all days, we've kind of made the old switcheroo, and we're used to be live on Mondays, and now it's Tuesday. So we'll see how this goes. But it's
we'll see how many of you guys were paying attention last week when we announced the switch. But hey, it was nice to have a buffer day. It was nice to have Monday.
It was. We were kind of always scrambling on Sunday to kind of get stuff together, and we just thought, I think Tuesday might make it a little bit easier for us. So
yeah, and this should be a fun episode too. We're gonna talk about a couple of kind of fun things. I got a little bit of news we'll get into with Johnny Depp, the Fantastic Beasts franchise, All Is Not Well in Potterland. Then also just talking about kind of the best, what's the best movie franchise of all time. As I was looking into some of the Fantastic Beasts stuff, it just sort of got me thinking, raised that question. Hey, why don't we have that discussion? So again, if you guys are watching, even if we're not quite at that topic yet, go ahead and start letting us know what your pick is for the best franchise. I guess the heads up, we were thinking 3 movies or more, so it has to at least be a trilogy. And then however you define it after that. And then again, if we have time, maybe we'll get into some of our Mandalorian thoughts as well.
I did. I did watch the.
Yeah, so maybe we'll get into that.
Why not?
Why not? There's never enough. Never a bad time to talk about Star Wars and the Mandalorian.
That's true.
So just, kind of real quick, we don't need to go too deep into this, but as far as this sort of pop culture news, this is one of the only kind of stories that was making the rounds. Again, movie theaters and things are shut down. But Johnny Depp, the Fantastic Beasts, the Harry Potter franchise is one of the biggest kind of ka-ching, kind of pop culture phenomenons. Amusement parks. You got the books are still, if you go on like Amazon, the Harry Potter books are still like in the top 10 bestsellers.
It's just crazy.
After however many years that it's been out. Actually, J.K. Rowling just released a new book today, The Ichabod. So we'll be doing a review on that as well. But again, the Fantastic Beasts kind of came out after, or I guess it came out after. It was a prequel kind of showing before the Potter films. And it's it's struggled to, not to use a pun, pun intended, but to recapture the magic of the originals. 2 movies in. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on those movies.
Yeah, I mean,
generally speaking, they haven't kind of reached the heights, kind of in fandom as the originals.
Which I feel like that's some hard magic to overcome. The originals, like that's just going to be tough to recapture that.
Yeah,
regardless of what direction you go with your prequel or sequel or whatever you end up doing. It's always that's a high bar to try and overcome.
We'll probably get into when we start talking about franchises, but just sort of like the idea that it's hard to think of like some of these later films that have ever been able to kind of recapture that kind of in any Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, anything you're looking at.
That's true.
Well, Johnny Depp kind of, besides just being a bit of a dud as far as sort of fandom and not performing all that well at the box office with these movies, or at least relative to what was expected from a Potter film. The series is just sort of being surrounded by controversies and just bad publicity.
Yeah.
Several of the other actors there's been issues with. Obviously, people have mixed feelings about J.K. Rowling. But Johnny Depp is sort of the latest, probably the most significant of that. He's been in the news. If you follow the celebrity tabloids, his very rocky relationship with Amanda Heard. That they split. They're in the news. They went to court about it. He was suing a publication that referred to him as a wife beater. He lost the case, saying that hey, according to the facts, that's what you are a wife beater. Very quickly after that, Warner Brothers fired him from the franchise. He's going to be recast, or they asked him to leave, and he accepted. Is the more PR spin on it.
Yeah.
But what do you think of it? I think there's several. One's just the question of what does this mean for the movies? Does it matter?
Yeah.
And then the other one is just sort of, kind of as Christians, wrestling with, just character matters, because we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
What you think maybe doesn't necessarily. Like the Chris Pratt stuff. But this is different, though. This is like
right. I mean, obviously, when you venture into criminality, like I feel like that's very much a line for anyone, regardless of their position in Hollywood or as an artist or actor or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, that you would hope, any producer would hope that, they made good choices in who they picked to star in a franchise, which I think it should be noted. It is quite a bit different than just a single movie, because, I mean, that's a pretty long-term commitment for actors to agree to, several movies over several years. And they have to kind of at least somewhat have their life together. I mean, apparently, though, that's too much to ask for Johnny Depp. And so I think, obviously, I think they did the right thing in letting him go. But that, yeah, what are we, 2 movies in? And now one of the main characters is going to be somebody else. Yeah. Luckily, there was enough makeup that maybe you could get a look-alike.
Yeah, and I guess you think the Dumbledore, the original actor died after the first 2, and then they recast.
I mean, it's it happens.
It happens, but it's always it's unfortunate.
It is, and I think Johnny Depp's a pretty good actor, and so it's too bad that he just can't keep himself together enough to do what he's good at, and so yeah.
Yeah, I think even just it's a cautionary tale for, I think sometimes I think it's relevant to all of us, but we kind of see these celebrities, the people that, this ridiculous amounts of money and fame, and kind of this idea that they're almost invincible and they can just kind of do whatever and get away with whatever, and it just shows he's gone from kind of beloved, successful actor to basically out of work. He hasn't acted since the last Fantastic Beasts. I don't know when he'll come back. And again, as Christians, we do believe in redemption.
It's not right. It's not to say he can't be redeemed, but I think it is a reminder that Hollywood and artists and people who are in sort of in pop culture like that aren't above the law, and they can't just get away with everything. Even though I think sometimes you think they can, just because however their lifestyle is, or all the things you may disagree with them, but ultimately, he's gonna have to face the music here. So
yeah, I think even just for us too, as far as as if you're a creative person, obviously we're not all gonna be A-list celebrity, Hollywood celebrities, but just who we are matters.
Yeah.
This, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you have a kind of a defective character, then that can really sink.
Which I think a lot of times that maybe archetype is sometimes glorified in the arts, is just sort of, you're this kind of irreverent, brash, jerky sort of person, but you're brilliant at your craft, whatever that is, whether it's directing movies or acting or painting or whatever, or music. But that isn't if you want to look at it at the very base level, that's not a long-term strategy for success. You might be able to get away with it, and some people may put up with it for a while, but it's not going to ultimately serve you long-term.
Yeah, I think too, especially again, this is a cynical take, but is Hollywood really concerned about kind of moral and ethical? I think in a lot of ways this is a PR marketing thing. I think you can't sell a movie when one of your lead characters has this label over their head. This is
right.
They know it's going to hurt their, it's already hurt it. That all the press tour, you can't bring out one of your characters. So it is very much a marketing thing. That's why a lot of these A-listers get the big money, is because they can sell movies, even if it's not necessarily their talent, although they are talented. So again, we'll see. Obviously, the Potter world has got some Polyjuice potion. Maybe they'll find some clever way to maybe make the actor look like he's someone else.
And for what we've heard, it seems like it was a very fraught relationship, Johnny Depp and Amanda Heard. So that who knows what will become of that.
Yeah, and again, there's still more coming out in that relationship, but it just there's a lot of life lessons and things not to do based on both ends of that relationship.
Learn from others' mistakes.
Yeah. But yeah, again, as I was thinking about that story and kind of this Fantastic Beasts and kind of wondering where that goes as a franchise, this got me thinking as far as franchises. What what are the great franchises? obviously Potter's going to be up there. Fantastic Beasts maybe brings that down. So I thought maybe we could just have that discussion.
Yeah,
Maybe come up with a definitive answer. We'll see if we agree on it.
definitely.
Again, I don't know if you thought too much coming into this. I don't necessarily know an answer yet. Maybe we'll reach that answer. But
Yeah.
again, 3 movies or more. And again, if you're watching, let us know what you kind of what your favorite. If you want, let us know kind of why you think this is the best franchise.
Yeah, we'd love to hear.
There's obviously there's some of the ones that we expect are kind of the key, the front runners. But maybe there's some unexpected ones. We were saying like the Air Bud franchise.
Yeah.
But why don't you go for what would you either what you think is the best or what would be your qualifications for considering what makes a movie series franchise
Well,
great?
I mean, I think there has to be like relatively good content across the franchise, because I feel like maybe there could be some that, movies 1 and 2 were great, but then like 3 and 4 just totally tanked. So, I mean, is that a good franchise? I don't know. I can't think of specific franchises that were like that.
Well, even like we were saying, like Indiana Jones,
That's true.
you
Yeah.
have 2, I think near flawless films. You got 2 not good films.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I think as a standalone, maybe those first 2 were great, but then like as a whole franchise, is it really a great franchise? I don't know. I think obviously Star Wars and and it's tough even like with Star Wars, cuz like you've got the original 3 which started the franchise, you could say. Then there were some dark years. And so, I guess I think I'd have to like break those into separate for me to like, I guess, go by my own standards here as I think about it.
Just like trilogies. You could argue because again it's the same problem with the Lord of the Rings. You got the original 3, which are amazing, and then you also
Yeah.
have the Hobbits trilogy, which are not amazing. So when taken together, it kind of pulls it down.
And then you have like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the Avengers. How would one go about parsing that up, or you just say the MCU as a whole?
Yeah, and I think that, or at least for me, the kind of you're saying the standard of like consistency. For me, I think MCU is one that gets thrown out a lot. Obviously, I think just money wise, it's the highest. Obviously, there's
It's obviously
30-some.
enormous, yeah.
There's tons of way more movies than other franchise, but I think because it's so broad, it almost reminds me of like a baseball team that's always sort of on the cusp. Like they're never
It's
bad.
just the
they're
law
never,
of averages. Like, they've got some duds,
Yeah.
but then they've got some really great ones. And I think I think that's maybe the same thing with like the Star Wars. The original 3 have so much like power that they sort of can lift up other movies that may have come afterwards and
Yeah, and
weren't as good.
yeah.
And I guess too, there's also just that, how does it make you feel? And so like I think for you and I both, like anything Star Wars, like you're into it. Like you may not like everything that they've put out, but like it's Star Wars, you almost are obligated to to like or at least show interest in it. And just I think that world as a whole is super fascinating, and I think there's so much still to be done with that. But then you've got movies like the Bourne series, which I love, and those are some of my favorite movies, the first 3.
Yeah,
But then there was like, they tried to do a 4th with like a different character. Well, it was a different actor acting
Yeah.
Jason Bourne, and it was like, was that really necessary? No, it wasn't. Total waste. And it's just totally different than, something like Harry Potter, which, how do you compete with,
I think there is I think what you're saying, like the rewatchability factor.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think like every year we watch through like the Harry Potters
Yeah,
or
we
like
actually just
Star
did, me and my
Wars
wife,
or
we started watching them for the first time with our boys. They watched the first 4, and then we're waiting for they get a little scarier for them. They're 5.
yeah.
But again, we watch through those every year. We watch through the Lord of the Rings probably a couple of times a year. Usually do it at Christmas time, so we're about to start that trek probably with our boys as well. So I think there is that there. If you had to pick maybe just the top 3, I guess for me, my 3, would be Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Potter.
Yeah,
Those
I
are the
mean,
one.
I think that, I mean, I think maybe a close fourth would be, for me, would be the Bourne movies. But because they're just so different, like it's just such a different kind of franchise, I think, um, than the more, because all of those are just fantasy. Um,
Yeah, obviously, where I'm, as
you know,
sort of
and I
like a
think,
geeky fantasy guy, I gravitate towards,
and I do too, and I think those are probably would be a solid top three pick. I don't know of the three. Um, I I don't know how I would be able to rank them. For me, at least, I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I feel
It's
like
tough.
because like the Potter ones they're pretty all. I guess
Yeah,
there's
I
eight.
that
If you don't count the Beast movies yet,
right, and I think that
they're
would be
all
the
good.
yeah,
Star Wars,
and
the original
you
three are
yeah.
all 10 out of 10 in my book. Prequels are not good. The sequels also not good. And then they have some of the standalone ones which are okay.
Yeah, and then I think like Lord of the Rings, the first three were brilliant,
Yeah, those are.
and I would almost separate that from like the Hobbit ones.
Yeah, because I think if you take the original three Star Wars, take the original three Lord of the Rings, I think those are better than any of the Potter movies. Even if
Yeah,
Potter's maybe
as a
as of
whole,
now, consistent,
collectively
to have
good.
8 movies. Again, the Beast movies are changing that.
And I know, look, we're forgetting, great franchises like Fast and Furious
Yeah,
or
Transformers
Transformers.
that was considered.
I mean, there's so many good ones. Toy Story.
Yeah, Shelley says Harry Potter, the originals, amazing storyline, great characters, great development. Can we watch them? They never get old.
That's true.
100% agree with that. They don't. I think
They
they
don't.
are.
They have some staying power that's magical. You could say.
It is. And you could say, obviously any movies that star like kids, like if you look at the Lord of the Rings movies, like across the board, not kind of the Hobbit, acting is just 100%. Like they,
Yeah.
um, obviously with a lot of the kid actors and stuff, it maybe isn't quite as consistent with the Potter movies.
But it's remarkable that the casting that happened with Harry Potter, that you were able to cast kids, and 10 years later, like
perfect.
Yeah.
Because that could have gone. Because even you look at like the Beast movies, I think the casting was okay, but you just don't have the same sort of. They didn't capture that kind of lightning in a bottle.
Right.
So I don't know. I think if I were to pick, I think for me it does come down to Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I don't know. It's like picking a favorite child. I do feel like in some ways the original Lord of the Rings are just technically more emotional, kind of better made films.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they're not as old, so they're more current in some ways, and I think they've aged. They could have come out last week and we wouldn't know. They aged maybe a little better than the original Star Wars, but I just think Star Wars with the landmark kind of groundbreakingness.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll probably pick Lord of the Rings. But again, this is 1A and 1B. But where would you land for a?
Yeah, I'd probably have to go Star Wars, the original three films. I think there's just something about that. I think that's just so captures my childhood, and I think that's the other thing too. Is we've been fans of Star Wars, at least the films, longer than the Lord of the Rings films. So they've kind of just sort of.
Because I think I've shared
been embedded in our psyche for longer.
Some of the other video, maybe the review, the original Star Wars movies were the first adult, non-cartoon films I ever saw in my life.
Yeah.
So those are where I started watching films that weren't, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And again, I think if you count the special editions of Star Wars, then I think that maybe does put Lord of the Rings up ahead. There are some cringe-worthy, the new song they added in the Jabba the Hutt Palace. That definitely you gotta dock some points for. But yeah, if you guys are watching this maybe later, let us know what are your qualifications for what makes the best franchise. Do you agree with our kind of big three? Are there some that you prefer? And if you say Transformers, then
we probably just will
God
have
have
to delete
mercy on
that
your soul.
comment. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like debating. Is LeBron better than Michael Jordan? I don't think there necessarily is an answer, but it is.
It's fun to talk
It's
about.
fun to
at
talk
least.
about it and sort of see why are we drawn to some things and not drawn to other things. Why do some things kind of connect on a cultural level? This week at the collision, again, we're probably all politicked out of from this last week.
Woohoo!
We don't have a new article as of now that we're posting this week. Kind of taking a bit of a breather. But if you didn't check out, if you haven't quite had enough politics in your life, we posted one last week on kind of art and politics. And again, it's not a political article, but just kind of making the case that hey, there's more to life than politics.
Yeah, and
art's kind of a gateway to remind ourselves, or it should be a gateway to remind us that there is more in our world, regardless of what the media is telling us. I think the article is called "A Separation of Politics and Art," or "Art and Politics."
yeah,
So if you didn't
it's a
check
good
that
read.
out, I encourage you to do that. Like I said, the J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, just released a new kind of kids book called The Ichabod. I think she'd already released it like on her website. She was doing a chapter at a time, and then she finished it and she published it. With all the controversy going on with her, it's probably going to be kind of a big news story, this new book. But as soon as Amazon Prime delivers that book to me today, I'll dig into it. It's probably going to be a quick read, and then maybe I'll try and get a review out later this week about what I thought of it. So keep your eye open for that. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to our channel as well. But what are sort of kind of some cultural observation? What do you?
Well, it's a couple weeks old now, I guess, but Somebody Feed Phil is a Netflix documentary that follows Phil Rosenthal.
It wouldn't be a Collision Live without a documentary recommendation by Sam.
Yeah, well, it's just one of the most fun shows I think that you can watch. It's like super happy. He travels around the world, eating great food, and just his interactions with people are just priceless. And just watching him like eat good food is pretty amazing. He's the writer and creator of Everybody Loves Raymond, and so it's pretty fantastic. I think this was the third or fourth season, and they're all on Netflix. And so Carrie and I have been enjoying those, sort of a nice breather from the world and everything else, and sort of an escape to some exotic place to eat delicious food.
Another kind of big news story, as if 2020 hasn't been kind of crappy enough. Alex Trebek, Jeopardy host, lost his battle with cancer, passed away. Was it yesterday or the day before?
I think it was yesterday.
I think he was.
Yeah, very sad.
How old was he? 80?
80.
Maybe I'm just making that
so.
up. Yes. Again, I said I'm not a Jeopardy guy. I know my parents. They watch that every day. That's sort of their dinner routine. They tape it and they watch Jeopardy. But again, it's sort of almost in contrast to like the Johnny Depp stuff and Character Matters and Men Are Heard. You have just a classy guy.
Yeah.
You kind of see he's getting the respect that.
Well, I don't know, I guess how large Jeopardy is in like the American psyche. Like that's just such a huge, going back to franchise. It's not a movie franchise, but it's such a huge show that's just been going forever. And it's just.
And still going strong too.
And it's been Alex the whole time. Like that's remarkable to me. And it's just really cool to see some of the tributes coming in and just the love that he's getting. So
yeah, and obviously, you don't want to finish, illness, and that's tragic, but it is nice to see someone kind of finish well in terms of just kind of
a career, and a life.
He accomplished a lot. He kind of kept his character throughout. Not tons of big controversies and stuff surrounding his life, like we've seen some other kind of big figures. So it is good to see you can make it through without. Another thing I noticed too, kind of a last thing, is Baby Shark, Sam's favorite running playlist song. I think on YouTube became the most watched movie or most watched video in the platform's history.
Wow.
Just, I don't know what that says about our world and culture, but it's probably not anything good.
I think we all need to go away from this and think very hard about our life choices.
Rethink about humanity. But yeah, that is some of those things you just wonder why do some of these silly things catch on and become this phenomenon? This delicate song.
It's crazy.
But hey, that's what makes pop culture fun. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, you
and,
never know what's gonna
and
catch
it
on.
can be kind of wild. But any kind of final thoughts for us with?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, so again, encourage you guys. Thanks for following us over to our Tuesday edition.
Yeah,
We'll be back again every Tuesday. I think you're out of town next week.
be out of town next Tuesday, but
so,
back.
So I will be here. And I'll have a different guest. Can never take the place of Sam Camp, but we'll try to find someone to fill those big shoes. But again, if you guys are watching this later, make sure to share your thoughts. Let us know what you think of our topics. Ask us any questions you have, things you want us to talk about in future episodes, and obviously we'd be happy to do that. If you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you hit that like button. Follow all that we're doing with our channel. Go outside, get some fresh air. It's been a crazy week. Watch a fun movie. Just remember to enjoy life a bit with all that's going on in our world in 2020. And hey, Christmas season is upon us, so so there's a lot to look forward to. But again, thanks for joining us. Continue to collide through the world for Christ.